Today we're starting our very first notes video of Unit 2. So we're going to start by talking about parallel lines and angles that develop from parallel lines, and likewise the relationship that developed from that. So today's going to be a lot of writing because there's a lot of vocabulary we need to know to start off with. It is extremely important that you get all of these words written down because you will need to reference them in the future. So let's go ahead and start by taking a look at some of these first vocabularies. So what's a parallel line? Okay, parallel lines are two coplanar lines that do not intersect. So taking a look at that first diagram, what are parallel lines? Well, we could say that M, so our line M, is parallel to line N. So when we draw two parallel lines like that, that's how that's stated. M is parallel to N. So what is a skew line? A skew line are two lines that do not intersect and are not coplanar. So we could say that in this diagram that line M and line N are skew lines. Okay? Then it says parallel planes are planes that do not intersect. So plane P and plane R are parallel planes because they do not cross each other. Okay? So again, I can talk a lot faster than you can write, so feel free to pause the video as needed, okay? Alright, let's take a look at this. This diagram is going to be necessary for all the stuff we're writing down, and we're going to be making reference points to it. So let's start by talking about a transversal. Okay, so a transversal are lines that intersect two or more coplanar lines at least two different points. Okay, so for example, on this first one, we could say that T is transversal to S and V. Okay, so S and V are here, and T is going to go and cut through it. That makes it a transversal to S and V. Let's take a look at the next one. The next one we're talking about is interior angles. So interior angles are angles that lie inside of the two lines, or between. So which numbers are interior angles? Well, angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, and angle 6. So each of these angles, notice how they lie in between the two parallel lines. That makes them interior angles. Let's take a look at exterior angles. Exterior angles are angles that lie on the outside of the two parallel lines. So for this diagram, what would that be? That would be angle 1, angle 2, angle 7, angle 8. So this angle, this angle, this angle, and this angle. Each of those angles are exterior angles because they lie on the outside of the two lines. So again, really make sure you're getting those vocabulary words written down. Next one, consecutive interior angles. So consecutive interior angles are interior angles that lie on the same side of the transversal. So what does that mean? Well, that's 3 and 6. So notice how 3 and 6 are both on the inside of the two parallel lines, and then they're right next to each other. So we could say that angle 3 and angle 6 are a pair of consecutive interior angles. Likewise, we could also say that angle 4 and angle 5 are also consecutive interior angles because they're on the inside and they're in line of those two parallel lines. Let's take a look at more vocabulary. Yay, so fun! We love vocabulary in geometry. So let's take a look at alternate interior angles. So alternate interior angles are non-adjacent interior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal. Oh man, that is a lot of mumbo jumbo. Okay, so let's take a look at a physical example. You should be writing the examples down because for me it's a lot easier to look at an example and see a picture of what an alternate interior angle looks like than to try and read the mumbo jumbo from that definition. So what does that mean? So what is an alternate interior angle? Well, an alternate interior angle is 4 and 6. So they're both inside of the angle, but they're on opposite sides. They're kind of in opposite corners when they're on the inside. So angles 4 and angle 6 are interior angles. Likewise, angles 5 and angles 3. this is a 6. Angles 5 and angle 3 are alternate interior angles. Okay, because they're sitting opposite each other, but they're still on the inside of those parallel lines. Okay, let's keep moving forward with our vocabulary here. Next, let's take a look at alternate exterior angles. So non-adjacent exterior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal. So again, we're looking at opposite corners. So we know for an exterior angle that it needs to sit on the outside. So I know that angle 2 and angle 8, they will sit on the opposite side and they're in opposite corners. So I can say that angle 2 and angle 8 are exterior angles. Likewise, okay, angles 1 and angle 7 are sitting opposite. Okay, so those are also alternate exterior angles. Last but not least, these ones tend to be the most difficult for students. So corresponding angles, they lie on the same side of the transversal of on the two lines. So what on earth does that look like? So they lie on the same side of the transversal on the same side of the two lines. So we're going to have a couple pairs of these. So for example, angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles because they both are on the upper left side on each parallel line. So angle 1 and angle 5 are going to be corresponding angles. Likewise, angle 2 and angle 6. Now those are corresponding because they're on the upper right of each of the parallel lines. Next, angles 4 and angle 8 are going to be corresponding angles. Angle 4 and angle 8. And last but not least, angles 3 and angle 7. Okay, angles 3 and angle 7. So that is pretty much it for our vocabulary. Now we're just going to kind of do some refreshers. Okay, of vocabulary that we learned in previous unit. That's going to become important for what we're doing here. So, first thing we need to remember is that perpendicular lines always form a 90-degree angle. Perpendicular lines always form a 90-degree angle. Vertical angles, meaning 1 and 3, are always equal or congruent. Okay, equal or congruent. So that means the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 3. Let's take a look at the two angles that form a linear pair. Okay, so when you're forming a linear pair, you're forming a line. So this was a little bit tricky for us on our last assessment. So taking a look at this one. This isn't writing very well, is it? Form a line. Please write line. Okay, so for example, if you look at this, angle 4 and angle 3 together make this entire line. Likewise, angle 3 and angle 2 make up the width of that line. Remember that a line always adds up to 180 degrees. So let's take a look at this next part. So this is where we're really getting into the meat of geometry. Okay, so you guys have this diagram on your note sheet. Okay, and I'm just going to do a rough sketch here because I forgot to put the diagram on here. Okay, so we're just going to use what we know. Okay, so it gave us that 118, this is 118 degrees, and it also gave us that this is 62 degrees. So now we're just going to take what we know about linear pairs and vertical angles. So the first thing I notice is that this angle and this angle have to add up to 180 because this angle and this angle are going to make a line. So 118 plus whatever that angle is has to be equal to 180. So we're going to solve that for x, and we get that x is equal to 62. So this angle has to be 62 degrees. Well, let's talk about vertical angles. This angle right here is vertical to that angle. So these two angles are vertical, so this angle has to be 62 degrees. Remember, vertical angles are equal. Likewise, this angle is vertical from 118, so that has to be also 118. Taking a look at the bottom, we notice that this angle right here and this angle right here make up a line. So this plus this need to add up to 180. Well, up here we already discovered that 118 plus 62 is going to be equal to 180. So I can put 118 there. Again, these two are vertical angles, so this one also has to be 118. These two are vertical angles, so this also has to be 62. So you might be starting to notice something. So think about, this is going to lead into tomorrow. Think about what it means in terms of alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles. Start looking at the measure of those kind of things and see if you can start putting together some hypotheses for what we do tomorrow. All right, let's take a look at that next one. So we know that MO and NP are parallel and they're being cut by another line. Okay, well, it gives us that this is 97 degrees and it gives us that this is 83 degrees. And that's it. And we have to fill everything else out. Well, we do notice that this angle right here and this angle right here add up to make a line. So that means that 180 minus 97 will give us that other angle because that other angle plus 97 needs to be 180. And when we do that, we get 83. So this angle right here is 83. So let's do some vertical angles. This angle has to be equal to that angle because they're vertical angles. Likewise, this angle has to be equal to this angle because they're vertical angles. Okay, let's go down here. This angle and this angle have to add up to 180 because they're a linear pair. Well, we know that 97 and 83 make a linear pair. Now let's do some vertical angle stuff. This angle is vertical to this angle, so this has to be 83. And this angle is vertical to this angle, so that has to be 97. So that completely fills it out. That completes your note sheet for today. Thanks for listening. Show me your completed note sheet once you're done.